Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is, wherever you are. This is Gail of Gaia, and this is Free Range, where we graze on wild ideas. And today, I am fortunate to have with me Keith Roberts. Keith has his own radio show here in Arizona, and it's been quite popular. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Keith?
All righty. Well, I'm there was an electrical technician, electronics technician, communications for most of my life, and I'm semi-retired here in Arizona. And I have a radio show on Freedom Slips. That's freedomslips.com, also known as Revolution Radio. I've been doing for about 7.5 years now, and it's just been a blast. We kind of vary between taking calls or it just depends on what the news cycle is and what I'm feeling like talking about on any given night. I don't really plan it much other than often I'll take notes, but I'll talk about the changes that are happening now and try to, speculate, but also share, information and about what's really going on in the world, and that it's a much more complex situation than most people understand. There's more than just Earth at play here. We are dealing with extraterrestrial races. I've had direct contact with a number of them, about 8 different ones, ranging from being abducted by the Greys to very positive Lyrians in particular. A lot of people have connections with Pleiadians, and they're actually kind of similar in a lot of ways. There's a whole story there, but so anyway, that's the situation. I'm here in central Arizona, and near the Sedona area, and it's got wild stories about some stuff that was happening here some years back. But I'm originally from Northern California, and from the Marin County, just over the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco, which used to be incredibly wonderful area and has really been impacted. These the tyranny that they're wanting to impose has really degraded certain areas, and it's sad to see what's happened there. So anyway, that's I don't know, it's that a little bit about myself.
Well, it's kind of fun. People like to hear about extraterrestrials. So I think it might be kind of fun to talk about that some. Now, it's my understanding that there are like 9 different races of Pleiadians, and only 2 of those races are good and in friends of humanity. I don't know if you've had any personal experience with that. But also, what other races that are, let's stay with the good ones, okay? And what other ones have you encountered?
Well, I encountered one particular one, I believe, is Andromedans. That was very positive. I've had, these interactions have varied from very subtle to very intense. The most positive one is the Lyrian. But in the case of the Andromedans, I was just out looking at the night sky and saw what I assumed was a satellite until it stopped moving. And then, satellites cannot stop. It didn't make any like wild right turns or anything like that. But I got this very, some of them will do what's kind of a download, where they'll just give you some information, and it may take years to unpack. And so that was interesting. But the one that was the most intense was the Delirian. I was at a New Year's Eve party 4 or 5 years ago, and I was in the backyard. It was twilight, and there was this low hill, and I see this incredible, this UFO. It looked like an emerald. It had facets. It looked like it was about 15 feet high and about 30 feet long. And I could make that estimation because it was so close, less than a quarter mile away. And it emitted this light that was so beautiful. this emerald green light. It just felt so healing and beautiful, and flew relatively slowly. The entire sighting probably didn't last longer than 20 seconds. It's hard to estimate, because you're so just like amazed. And it seems longer probably than it actually was. But then it just flies across and then disappears behind this low hill. And I go back inside to the party, and I'm like, I just saw the most amazing UFO. And they're like, yeah, Keith, that's interesting. But I started feeling really tired. So I went home and got in bed and felt energy work. I don't know if you've ever had anybody do energy work on you, but it can feel very intense. And I didn't trust it because I'd had the abductions with the Greys. That there's a level of caution there. You don't know, even though it felt really euphoric. The energy work that was being done on me felt incredibly good, but I still didn't trust it, and demanded that it stop. But it continued, and I know the reason why it was allowed to continue is because the being that was doing it, it's like we're from the same soul group or ray, so to speak. So there was a level of connectedness and agreement that I had made, with my higher consciousness or something, and it was reorganizing my energy to run higher energy, and so it was a trip, and I kind of felt that tired the next day too, but. As time wore on, especially when I was just scrolling through some images and saw one of the alleged images of Semyaze, the Billy Myers Pleiadian contact. And I said, I know you. And this being looked very similar, not the same. Her face is a little different, but it was enough to trigger me and really tune into that. And I started feeling this really positive energy. And I compared it on my radio show to having a girlfriend, because you kind of feel that energetic connection, and you feel energized. But it was not like that, And of course, I started getting, oh, your alien girlfriend. It's like, oh, but no, it's not like that, you guys. First of all, I don't even know if she can. I think she had to appear in our reality. She had to kind of lower her vibration or shift vibrationally to even appear. And so I don't know if she even has a physical body in the way that we do. But just an incredibly positive being. And as time went on, I started understanding how to telepathically communicate with her. And it's still difficult. It's not like I do get some information from her. It's very interesting. So anyway.
Have you ever gotten any information recently? Is anything coming through from any beings recently?
Well, with her main message for me is to get my own house in order, take care of myself, love myself. And I haven't really tried to, I've done some work on tuning into some stuff. For instance, what happened in the Lyrian constellation was that the reptilians found them and were very warlike and aggressive. And the Lyrians they didn't even have a concept of war. So they just got annihilated. And the only way they survived was by fleeing in this diaspora, which then seeded a lot of other places like the Pleiades. And she says she is of the first, whatever that means. And I looked at her spaceship and stuff like that.
I've heard about that, a little bit about that they were, and didn't they leave that area and kind of, spread out to different places in order to survive as a race?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been told I have some Lyrian background too. So
I think we all do. The seeded Earth as well. We have genetics from a number of different, you might even call them space farmers.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Well, right now, based on everything that's happening, people are very confused. And I was wondering if there's anything that we could put out there that might be helpful. I mean, just like you were told you have to get your own house in order, we need to take care of ourselves and love ourselves first and foremost before we can help others. But we really need to see our the people around us as our brothers and sisters rather than being afraid of them like they've been pushing you to be with this entire fiasco that's going on right now. Can you comment on that at all?
Yes, a lot, because that's a lot of what I talk about on my show. Yeah, first of all, they're pushing the fear, and they're not just pushing it in media. They're using psychotronic devices to escalate. They've studied mind control for decades and decades, and are very sophisticated at it. So they want you to be afraid. So I say the first thing is discipline your internal mind chatter. Get rid of all the "I can't do this" and "that sucks" and "we're all gonna," and the tyranny is, and the COVID is gonna get me, and the more and the thing is, we have control of our emotions. This is something my clairvoyant psychologist mother taught me, and I had a long time to really get a handle on it. But she used to tell me, you let your emotions run you too much, and you can put your hand on the wheel. You have the ability. So do your best to stay in a positive vibration. Cultivate gratitude. Cultivate forgiveness. All these challenges have taught us, have stressed us to force us to raise our vibrations to deal with it, or else you get run over. So that's what it's there for. It's actually doing you a service in this 3D reality. There are no enemies. I get in trouble for saying that, but there's a lot you can do. You need to meditate. Absolutely. I strongly recommend having some kind of creative outlet. Even if you're not very good at it, don't worry about it, whether it's drawing or, poetry, or in my case, music is my primary one, although I've dabbled in a whole bunch of different mediums. Get that nylon string guitar out of the closet, or the flute that you haven't played in years, and whatever. Something that helps you kind of disconnect and get in touch with your inner child, and that sense of wonder, and so that you're not. It's hard to do for a lot of people because their day jobs and their families, and you don't have that much time. But you don't have to spend a lot of time at it. Just especially if you can even just spend 10 or 15 minutes a couple of times a week, you'll find it, I think, to be very rewarding. A keyboard is a very easy musical instrument to pick up. I think it's the easiest one of all, and they're so inexpensive. There's a lot of avenues we have to kind of nurture those parts of ourselves that don't necessarily get fed in a busy, in the kind of life that is being presented to us that we're supposed to conform to.
Yes, I think, well, with me, just even having my little dog brings back the child back in me, because she wants me to play with her all the time. And that's fun. I also find that I enjoy doing shows like this too. That's another outlet for me anyway. But I think people do have problems finding outlets, and they need to turn off the TV. Because that's one of their avenues of programming people. Wouldn't you say that's correct?
Yeah, and it's a very sophisticated, and I would suggest it's the most effective programming tool that's ever been invented. They have the flicker rate set to 30 frames per second, which was chosen because that goes right past our conscious mind to our subconscious mind.
That's exactly what I wanted you to talk about, because I knew, being an electrician, you must know about that. So keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's.
Yeah. So especially the CNNs and the MSNBCs and those jokers. They're so blatantly pure propaganda, and they are lying to you. We had the fairest, most safe election ever. Oh my God, it was, everybody knows it was stolen blatantly. And it's been proven. We know that as a fact. And so I'll tell you that another thing is a lot of good things are happening below the surface that you're not seeing right now. I love what James Gilliland says, if you're familiar with him, the C60 Ranch.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him, but go ahead and tell us what he.
We are moving into a higher vibration, more of a heart vibration. A lot of people call it 5D, which is fine. And it's inevitable. It's unstoppable. But we are in the throes of it. The dark cabal that has, which consists of a lot of different elements. It's not just humans. It has been around and been in control for thousands of years here. So that's, not going to happen overnight. It doesn't just flip a switch and, oh, we won. In some senses, I would tell you, I think we've already won. It's, as I said, it's inevitable that those of us that choose to, because not everybody will choose that. Some souls still want to do the 3D thing and the polarity consciousness, the conflict consciousness, and they're not ready to move into that higher vibration. But a great number of us are ready, and the Earth herself is a conscious being and is doing that. And we've got a whole array of light beings and angelic beings and advanced masters that are here assisting us and sending us energy and trying to help us. That's why meditating is so important. Get in touch with your spirit guides. I hear comments all the time. Oh, I don't know how to listen to them. I said, that's because you won't shut up. You've got to quiet the mind and allow that information. And you won't hear a voice. It's not like, at least I don't. I don't know. Maybe some people do, but there will be a knowingness that will come. And the more you do that, it's like anything, you get better at it and more in tune. Those, opening up your intuitive abilities, and there's so many avenues that are available to us to develop the intuitive portion of our abilities, as opposed to the ego mind logic kind of structured. And you want a balance. They're both very important. It's just like your heart and your lungs are important. It's part of you. So develop your intuition and, really improve your decision making and get into the present. I did a whole bunch of past life regressions, and every time I did that healing work, I got a little bit more of me into the present time, as opposed to stuck in some, terrible event from previous lifetimes.
Well, that trauma stays with us in our DNA, the way I understand it, and that's why it's important for people to take care of themselves and to love themselves and to forgive themselves. And are you familiar with Saint Germain?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So he's, in the violet flame, all that. That's a very helpful. And sometimes I think if people just start with a few, a minute of calming your mind,
Mm-hmm.
And just little steps, baby steps, to get to, and if you keep doing it, it really does help, because I have a hard time shutting my mind off too, just like a lot of people do. And but it's you just got to keep working at it. And then I've also found that I like listening to 432 music and the mantras. I find mantras very helpful in calming the mind, and they can have a very much of a healing effect. So you're saying something about music. If you're the least bit musically inclined, I think music is a wonderful way to go.
It's very powerful. What sound itself can do. So yeah, that's a whole discussion right there.
Yeah, in fact, they start, sound healing is something that I think has been around for a long time, but most people don't think of it that way. It's like color and light therapy and sound therapy and all these different things are really helpful to people, but we just haven't gone in that direction very much because of Western medicine. It's much more prevalent in Eastern than it is in Western places.
Yeah, but people have been looking at light therapy and sound therapy forever. There's a lot of different wonderful modalities, and the nice thing about them is they're really soft, or less intrusive. There's also things like the Tesla type of technology. I have something called a violet ray, which is it's just basically a Tesla coil with I believe it's xenon gas, electrode glass tube filled with an inert gas that then emits this violet color and it sends little lightning bolts, and it's great for injuries. But it's quite powerful, and so you want to be careful with those. But with the sound and light therapies, they are so soft. I actually built some light therapy devices for Dr. Stephen Ross of trying to think of what his institute is called. I think he's pretty much retired now, but a super interesting guy. He used to when he started his institute, the Health Research Institute, I think it's called. He's got 600-year-old books in there and stuff. He's got pieces of a Rife microscope in there that nobody knows how to put together. If you know about Royal Raymond Rife and his amazing work, and his was sound work. He studied which different frequencies would deal with which different illnesses, and had a live microscope that apparently no one's been able to reproduce, but he could actually watch the disease cells explode as he would dial in different frequencies and wrote them all down. And of course, he was shut down because the powers that be don't. Well, people don't like the powers that be, and our language. We don't want to elevate them unnecessarily. That's why I like the term dark cabal. Some people use New World Order, but they're not unified. That's why I call them a cabal, because there's different groups and different elements, and they'll just as happily kill each other as us. But they don't want to cure anybody. They just want to treat you.
Yeah, make you a customer for life. That's
exactly
what it boils down to.
Until your money runs out.
Right, exactly, and then they don't care about you at all. And then a lot of the so-called Western medicine, is they find out how much insurance you have, and based on that is all the different treatments. They want to make sure that they utilize everyone that's covered. And they never cover anything alternative to speak of, which is a real shame. Back on sound therapy, I have to share an experience I had with it. I hadn't really had any sound healing, so to speak, until I came to Sedona. And I went to a sound healing practitioner, and I had the most profound sound healing effect. And that was like, I actually saw visions during the session, which was really awesome. And that's one of the things that I found when I do take the time to meditate. I don't always remember my dreams. I'm starting to a little bit more now. So something's changing that. But during meditations, I have seen visions. Sometimes I can't quite, it's like watching a movie almost. It's really cool. But sometimes I can't always tell exactly what's going on. And it's pretty amazing. So my first sound healing session was awesome. And I would really encourage people to try that and see how it makes them feel. Now, I'm not familiar with this violet ray that you're talking about, but I know that violet isn't it one of the highest color vibrations? And so it would have a healing effect. That's pretty cool.
I can show it to you.
Oh, wow. That would be awesome. I was wondering about that.
don't know how well, can you see that very well?
Yeah, I can see it. Oh, wow.
Little lightning bolts.
Do you feel it when you have, I mean, is there a sensation that you feel when it's on, you know?
Your audio is a little low. I didn't quite hear that.
I said, I'm sorry. Do you have do you feel a sensation when you put that on?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a little prickly. If you get it further away from your skin, you see it arc, and you definitely feel that. It's really a fantastic device, and you can find them on eBay. Just do a search for Violet Ray.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look into that. That's pretty fascinating. Is it very expensive?
They vary. If you use the kind estheologists use for facial treatments, you'll see them go for around $700. But if I've seen them as cheap. A friend of mine on my recommendation bought one off eBay for $60.
That's my kind of price.
What's that?
I said, no, that's a price I can afford.
Yeah, as opposed to 700, you know.
Yeah.
Money's tight for just about everybody.
It is. And you know, I was here and they just raised our rent here by $100 a month.
I know.
It's just as infuriating. The corporations are raking in the money and the people are suffering as a result. But it's going to change. I don't want to stay on that vibration because I think everything's going to change and it's the best is yet to come. I honestly and truly have faith in that statement that was made by Trump, a number of other people as well. So, but it's up to us too, because collectively as a group, we have to first take care of our own house and love ourselves, but then we need to spread that love outside of ourselves. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yes. In fact, one of the things I say is, you're not sitting back eating popcorn, like, for the political stuff. Yeah, there's not much you can do there. But the thing is, the vision is so critical. This is why the narrative of the mainstream news they're in such lockstep. They have to portray a narrative because they require our collective consciousness to manifest the type of reality they want for us, the tyranny. And if we hold a vision of moving into a heart vibration, of having one of the main things is the money system. It's got to change. And I believe that will happen. On the purely 3D level, that's the number one thing. But it all has harmonics in the spiritual level. So are moving into a much more equitable exchange of energy, is kind of how to think of it. So if we have a vision of this positive future, what we're doing is we're assisting in coalescing it into physical reality.
That is so important. And that's one of the things I kind of wanted to emphasize today to people to help get them out of this. Oh, we're going to have this done to us and we're going to have this done to us and blah, blah, blah. And it's all very negative. Instead of thinking, wait a minute, what we create to a certain extent, I know there's some people that would argue this, but we can create our own reality to a large extent. I know we've been, manipulated in so many different ways that it interferes with, all the negative programming and so on. But you can rise above it because spiritually we're very strong people, and spirits, I should say.
I would argue that the very physicality of the chair you're sitting in is solid because you believe it is. We know from science that it's really a force field. It's 99.9% empty space. The space between the nucleus and the electrons, and then the space between the atoms and other atoms, and it's primarily empty space. So it's real because we're in resonance with that vibration. So as we move into a more heart-oriented vibration, we'll see that manifest in the external world, as within, so without.
That's beautiful. And that's so true, because I've read that too. And I'm going, well, when I first read it, I'm going, wait a minute, how can that possibly be? But there are people that have actually seen glitches in the matrix as a result. It is, our minds are very powerful, but we've been taught, programmed, whatever you want to call it, to not think that way, to feel limited, to feel less than, things of that nature. And that interferes with creating the most positive future that we could have. And so I don't know how or what we can do to convince people to think of the things that they love, and things that they concentrate on the things that you want, and don't concentrate.
Well, we have to do our own homework, so that we express it and then can radiate it by example. Because for many people, we all have those people around us that voted for Biden, and are hang on every word Rachel Maddow says.
The cup is half empty, not the cup is half full, kind of thing.
Yeah. So you'll never convince them. But I shouldn't say that. Some people do come around. People are all at different stages of their soul evolution. So some people, especially if you can find the right areas, ring the right bells within them, and it is happening. I think the primary thing to do is to be an example of that, and that's why the inner work is so important. And I've got plenty more to do on that. I'm not pretending I'm any kind of advanced person. I've been kicked around a lot and had, the school of hard knocks, and had a lot of struggles, like we all do. But those are teaching. Those really are showing us, for instance, well, don't do that. And then we start to find successes and opportunities, and if you view the challenges you face as opportunities, I have the belief that whatever we are facing, we can overcome. Doesn't mean we will, but it is, for instance, like right now, I think we've got everything we need on this planet to be living in paradise. But of course, we also have these dark beings that are interested in control. They've cut their own selves off from the creator. So the only way they can get creative energy is through enslaving us. And I believe that's the game that we're seeing played out right now. And as more and more of us say, hey, I don't want to play that game anymore. I'm done. You stop giving them energy. That's why I say there's no enemies. If you don't hate them, that's, they thrive on the negative energy. They want people in misery. And that's literally food for certain groups of these beings. So if we disengage and stop feeding the beast, it'll starve. It'll turn on. What'll actually happen is they'll turn on each other, and we won't have to deal with them.
And doesn't, like when you say starving the beast, another way that actually is a way of dealing with it is through compassion and expanding your humanity. They don't at all. That makes them shrink, really. And it's like when you're being all negative, you're actually feeding them. You're actually making them grow, is another way of looking at it. So I try to remember that myself. I'm not perfect by a long shot about things like that, and attempting to always flip it over when negativity comes through to, well, it's not that big a deal. This will pass. All things pass, for one thing. They really do. And but I think our compassion and our love for each other and treating each other as brothers and sisters and helping each other whenever we can is very important. And right now, with what's being put out by the mass media and by Western medicine and by our controllers, doesn't do that. And so we have to rise above that.
About 20 or so years ago, I was deciding what I wanted to do. I said, I still have lots of time. What do I want to accomplish? What do I want to do with my life? Is it more money? Is it a beautiful wife? These material things, a new spiffy car? What are my goals? And I decided, I started narrowing it down, making it simpler and simpler and simpler, right? Because you're going to put that out into the universe, you need to really be aligned between your mind and your heart to manifest. So what it came down to was I said, well, what is the thing that's most missing in the world right now? It's love, it's compassion. So my goal then became to learn how to develop my ability to love to a greater extent. Which is a very hard path. It's you requires you to have the courage to look at your own shadow, which is no fun, of course. Most people don't ever even consider that; they just project their crap on you. But to really deal with the subconscious programming and to develop my own ability to be more generous and really be in gratitude, really cultivate gratitude and forgiveness, and have the desire to put myself in a position where I can be of service and just helping people. And you got to be careful with that one, because there's certain people that'll just take. You have to have boundaries, but to truly love them, you need to impose those boundaries, because they need to develop their own abilities. If you just give them stuff constantly, then they'll never be in a position where they even are challenged. So that was my goal, and still is. And I have made improvement, but if you look at a scale that goes to infinity, it's like, it's hard. But that's why all the inner work I stress so much on my shows. And there are so many modalities you can investigate, and some I would caution about, so be very discerning. But the more you can develop your own intuition, the easier it's going to be to make good choices. I do a thing oftentimes when I'm driving. I'll just I'll test my intuition. I'll say, that car is going to turn right at the next corner. And sure enough, most of the time I'm right, like 90%. And it's just sort of like lifting weights. It's just tuning into your intuition is something you can practice and get more clarity with.
Yeah, it's funny, you just remind me, I have a set of cards. I just don't have anybody to play with. and where you pick a card, and then it's actually for telepathy, and they're supposed to guess which card you have. And you practice that, and you might be surprised at how good you get at it. But I haven't had anyone to do that with. But anyway,
well, you could do that with yourself. You don't have to look at the card. You could just hold it.
I suppose I could.
so you're not seeing what the face is, and visualize it and see. You don't. But I've had telepathic stuff with other people too. My ex was so super clairvoyant. I think she could literally hear my sentences of my inner mind chatter.
Some people are like that; they really are. But the closer you are to a person, too, like if it's a companion, a child, a parent, whatever, that ability, I think, is much greater with them than anyone else. At least it always has been for me. That's where I, first started really noticing, like you or a friend even, all of a sudden, you're thinking of somebody and all of a sudden they call you,
Yep. And it's them.
Yeah, exactly. That happens with my son a lot. So that's a cool thing. But the other thing, when we were talking about people being giving and sewing, I honestly believe you have to give to get. You give of your time on your radio show. I give of my time on putting things like this together, and as a result, I get back. And that's not why I do it. I actually enjoy doing it and sharing that joy, and then and I'm not paid for my time. You're not paid for your time. And in this day and age, I guess that as far as, a financial situation goes, there's a lot less stress if you know that your bills can be paid. But that's, money is very 3D.
In keeping with the long-standing tradition of bringing you the very best in information, entertainment, and health-related products, Free Range with Gail of Gaia is pleased to bring you the gold standard in CBD products and resources. Free Range has partnered with CBD Sedona, a full-service CBD resource for the best products and information available. Just visit cbd.gailofgaia.com. That's cbd.gailofgaia.com to learn how to support your health, wellness, complexion, and also support Free Range. CBD is no joke. It's a powerful addition to your wellness routine when accompanied by a consultation with a real CBD professional. Sure, you can find CBD at a smoke shop, hardware, or a grocery store, but can you get the valuable information on CBD use or the quality you can get from people where CBD is all they do? Probably not. Visit cbd.gailofgaia.com. That's cbd.gailofgaia.com today to learn more. Free Range with Gail of Gaia and Free Range Productions is proud to partner with C60evo.com, makers of ESS 60 products. C60, the carbon-60 molecule, delivers more than 172 times the power of vitamin C as an antioxidant. ESS 60 is simply the purest form of C60, a known antiviral, antibacterial, and anti-inflammatory remedy that not only works, it is the only C60 molecule that is approved for both internal and external use. ESS 60 neutralizes free radicals from cell metabolization and external toxins to help minimize inflammation and maximize detoxification. People report better sleep, more energy and flexibility, and renewed mental clarity when they take ESS 60 products. For more information, visit ess60.gailofgaia.com. That is ess60.gailofgaia.com.
It really is. I'll be
Well,
glad.
that is going to shift. That's in the process as we speak. In fact, I'm convinced of it. And there's a lot of positives I could say on the 3D world happenings. But let's just to look at, as it turns out, there's surprising rewards from cultivating that attitude of generosity. That it turns out being generous is the most selfish thing you can do. Who'd have thought?
Really, that's funny that you say that. That's an interesting way of looking at it. But
I never expected it. I just knew it was the path I wanted to choose. But the universe, if you are positive, Cliff High is a very interesting person.
Oh yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Yeah, and but he talks about how if you're in service to the universe, you will be supported, and that's what I found.
Just gave me goosebumps. That's so true. I mean, people send me cards and letters, and sometimes I make donations along with that, and I'm going, oh my God, it just is so. It's very uplifting, and it's. I don't know how else to describe it. It makes me feel great, and I enjoy it tremendously. And I don't even realize it until somebody will say, "Oh, I love your shows," or "Oh, you're having great programs," and stuff like that. And I don't even think that myself. I'm just going, "Let's see, who am I going to have on next?" Or something like that. And anyway, I love doing it. It's fun.
Oh, I wanted to say before I forget being happy is the most powerful thing you can do to piss off the would-be tyrants.
That's a good one. Happy regardless of your circumstances. Like you can be happy and be in a difficult situation and still be happy. That sounds almost impossible. But
or at least when you're highly stressed, what I do, especially if I'm feeling moody, I'm an Aries, right? So. I'll recognize that if I'm letting myself get down, that it's an act of selfishness. So I'll challenge myself and say, if I'm starting to get down and depressed and disheartened, it's an act of selfishness, and I have control over that. I don't, so I won't necessarily, I don't flip into, oh, I'm all happy now. But what I do is I say, okay, I recognize it, and it keeps me from getting too, because you can go, many of us that have experienced depression at very deep levels. It is a challenging world we're in.
I certainly have.
But you can buoy yourself up and keep from indulging in that kind of negative vibration, because you're just attracting psychic parasites right and left when you do that. Both humans, but also non-physical beings I call demons. There's a lot going on in the psychic realm. The very best spiritual protection you can create for yourself is that loving vibration. And the more you can dwell in that and in a positive state, it doesn't mean, rainbows and unicorns and puppies, but it means things will go better.
Oh, yeah, right. That's woo-woo BS, when you stay positive and stuff like that. But it's really not. It's really not. I mean, it has to be genuine, but you also have to have gratitude for what you do have. I mean, there's always somebody worse off than you are, for one thing. I mean, if that's how you have to look at it to make yourself feel better. But I do think that, just like you said, depression is a very self-indulgent thing. And, I experienced it in my past at a very low level, based on certain circumstances that were happening in my life. But now when I look back, it was quite the learning experience. And now I just don't even let myself go there. I might feel a little down or something like that, but I turn it around as quickly as I possibly can, and try to remember what to be grateful for, and try to engage in the things that make you happy.
We really have so much, and the kingdom within is so extraordinary. So going back to my ex, I had an experience with her several times during intimacy where I went completely through, that trying to be PC here, I went to a place where it was just a complete bliss. And I was transported to a beach where you can hear the waves, but they don't make any sound. And it's this timeless, euphoric, blissful place outside of time and space as we know it, which I know is real because I experienced it. And she was just clinging to me. And it lasted and lasted and lasted until I finally, an hour and a half later or whatever, said, I got to return to earth here. but I'm always there. So this is these really extraordinarily high vibrational consciousness is available to all of us. Yes. So as you do the inner work and open up your channels and heal, and you become more able to run these higher energies that are extraordinary.
Mm-hmm. What's interesting about that, when you said that, it reminded me. Now, during a period of time in my life, I wasn't with a partner or anything like that, but I was doing yoga and I was meditating, and there were times when I would just experience just complete bliss for no apparent reason, and I just felt like, because of what I was doing, I was doing some shows. I was just getting started, really, and but I was making sure that I did some of these other things, which I kind of drifted off of somewhat now, but I can bring it back. The yoga and the meditation, and probably the meditation more than anything. I think yoga just kind of helps relax your body and helps you get there easier in the meditation. And I'm not talking any of these really unusual positions that people think of that haven't done it, and then they don't even try it because of it, kind of thing. There's very basic is all I was ever doing, and it was amazing. You reminded me of the bliss that I felt at that time when you said that. Not to mention the other kind. I know there's other forms of bliss, when you're with someone, but this was pretty amazing as well.
And these are available to all of us. And I mean, you could be sitting on a beach with a pina colada on a tropical sand with millions of dollars and be enslaved. And you could be in prison and be more free than anybody because you've opened up your consciousness so much. Those are extremes, of course, but our possessions own us almost more than we own them. And so we're in a period now where it's just information is so intense that we do need to have those times where we disconnect. I'll give you all a simple meditation that anybody can do. This is what my mom taught me. First of all, put your feet on the ground, open up your foot chakras. Just imagine them opening. If you're new to this, you might be confusing, but just don't worry about it. Don't be in judgment. And feel earth energy coming into you and mixing, and then open your crown chakra and feel your higher consciousness energy come in, and bring your higher self into your body as much as you feel you can allow, and let that cosmic energy come in and mix with the earth energy. And then just quiet your mind. And then at that point, if you want to ask questions or just listen to your guides, that's then you're in that, it's great if you have a particular time and a particular place. Some people like to use a candle or a cross or something to, kind of help set the vibration. And as you do that, you'll get more into it. And that's when I'll do things like I'll ask Mother Earth. A lot of times, like for instance, on my shows, there's this one guy that would come on and he'd say, well, this terrible thing is going to happen next month, and that terrible thing is going to happen. And so I would go and do that and ask Mother Earth and Father Sun and say, is this really going to happen or not? And then they get a big no. That's another thing you can do. You can frame questions in simple yeses or nos. And so then I'd tell them, I'd say, you know what, actually, that's not going to happen. Of course, I was right every time. The guy hates me, I'm sure. But, who's one of those doom and gloomers? It's all, the reptilian robots are going to take over next month. And oh, man, I'm not ruling that out, but I'll check first. It's a great time to ask questions. If you have questions about romance or money, those are the two ones everybody always wants answers about. And you can do this yourself and get answers yourself. You don't need an intermediary. Although it's likely that wherever you're at who are listening to this, there is a sensitive in your area that can be helpful, and it can be extraordinarily helpful at times.
Well, the one thing that's important too is you can't love someone else until you can love yourself first. And many people don't love themselves. They don't realize it, but they really don't. And they need to work on loving themselves, forgiving themselves, and then you're in a better position to bring someone into your life. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. And it's, again, we could do a whole series of shows just on that. But that's why the clearing work is so important. To get rid of other influences on you, because believe me, they're out there and they're real, and if they'll use your mind if you don't. So Occupy Yourself is a movement I created. And so
Occupy Yourself. Oh, that's cute. I like that.
Occupy yourself and do that inner work. Do that meditation every day. The thing about loving yourself is that there are these subconscious programs that we all get from childhood and also previous lifetimes too. But the childhood ones have the strongest valence for most of us, I would think.
I think some of our religious programming programming has been very negative as well.
Oh yeah. Oh
You're
yeah. Yeah.
a wretched sinner, and you're this and you're that. And,
Ever since the Spanish Inquisition, I have a real problem with the church.
yeah.
When I was 8, I didn't even know it, but I told my mom, I don't want to go to church anymore because I don't want to be told what to believe. I want to make up my own mind. But there's a lot of unworthiness programming. I, to this day, still have to, I'm still trying to, fully purge.
Yeah. Oh, I was fully indoctrinated with that, 12 years of parochial school. So it's been a real trip to remove that kind of negativity. Not that there's not, elements of love and so on, but the main control mechanism is to keep you outside of yourself rather than inside yourself.
All of us are connected to Creator. And so one of the control mechanisms has been to have an intermediary.
Yes, a savior.
But you can get all the answers. Actually, as you get clearer and open your third eye and really ditch the judgment stuff, then you can answer any question. But it's going to come through the filter of your consciousness. And that's why this is a continuing process of development. To become fully self-realized, then you don't need to incarnate here anymore. So I don't know of any of us that are there yet, but we can move in that direction if we so choose. And it is the most rewarding direction, but it does mean you will be challenged. I get hassled by other people on my radio show network, and you're selling hopium, and I'm like, yeah. Okay, that's your opinion. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I do that too. And today, in fact, just yesterday, I removed some comments that, people can be so negative and so critical, and gossip and judgment. I think some of the worst habits that humanity has picked up, that's very negative, doesn't do anybody any good. It's one thing. Oh, it's constructive criticism. Really? Most of the time it's not. It's just, it's being petty, it's being judgmental, and it's not being fair to the overall gist of what you're trying to put out.
A great deal of it is projection. They're projecting their own shadow onto you instead of dealing with their own garbage, taking out their own trash.
That's so true. You're absolutely correct. I forget that sometimes, and I take it very personal, and I try not to. But I decided that I just erase them. It's my house. It's like if you're going to come in and you're going to, complain about this or bitch about this or talk nasty about somebody else or what have you, I would just assume you leave, because I want to keep a clean house and a happy house. I mean, it can't be happy when you're, throwing all kinds of negative barbs out there.
What I've learned to do is see them as damaged individuals that need a lot of help and love and compassion. And the best way to express that may be to just not give them any attention, period. Just ignore them and not engage. Or it just depends on the individual. Sometimes there is room for an actual conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but that's normally that's the exception. That's the rare exception, sadly.
Yeah, they can make a comment and leave, and then you're not there to defend yourself, or to, not that you have to defend yourself, or to express it any further. You're just there to, you just see the negativity, and it kind of like it spreads out, and it doesn't do other people that read it any good, and it doesn't do what you're trying to present any good either. So unless they're willing to engage, really, then it's it might be, you might be able to pass, turn it into something positive or into something that could actually be beneficial and helpful. And you're right, they are basically damaged and projecting. but they're not even aware of it. It's like a hit and run, it's throw out a nasty comment and then leave, is usually how it happens. And that's, I don't know, it's just not, it's sad, actually, is what it is. But I try not to let it get me down, and I just, a lot of times I'll just remove it. It's not, But anyway, on to something more positive than that.
Well, it's positive to think that how we can deal with that without internalizing it.
Yes.
And letting, doing our best. I mean, I care about what people think about me. I do. I'll be honest about it. But I've learned how to insulate myself to a much greater degree from having it affect my emotions. It's disappointing, but that's just where they're at, and you got to love them. You got to love that individual and wish the very best for them, regardless of how nasty they've been to you.
Yeah.
So I think that is a positive thing to express. This is a mode, an operating mode to deal with the negativity is very high. It's been artificially pumped up through the media.
Right. Well, you were talking a little bit about frequency and the flicker rate and so on TV. Could you expand on that a little more, what you know about it?
Okay. So definitely turn off the TV. I haven't had any kind of cable or satellite subscription since about 2001 or so, 2002.
I haven't either.
The TV, what the flicker rate means is how many frames per second are shown to create what appears to be motion when they're really static images. They're just going by so fast, 30 times a second, that you see a movie or a continuous stream. And that particular speed of 30 frames per second is designed to interact directly with your subconscious. So it goes right through your subconscious, sees it as real, even though you're watching Lord of the Rings or whatever fantasy or fictional show, unless you're watching the nightly news and you think that's real, when it's all selective information designed to give you a narration of what reality is, which is a false reality that they're presenting to you.
Generate a low vibration.
To keep you down, because the last thing they want is for you to connect with God. Because that's incredibly threatening to their control. They want to be the authority, so it's very powerful, the way television works. If you put on biofeedback, remember biofeedback, anybody? Yeah, it was popular in the 70s, I know. But it monitors the delta, theta, and beta. It's basically the frequency your brain's running at. So within moments of you turning on the television, your brain state goes down to these lower vibration. So unplug that darn TV. I have one, but it's just if I want to watch a DVD or something, and because I do enjoy movies, many of us do.
That reminds me of the show They Live. Did you see that?
Oh yeah. I forget the actor's name in that, but he was great. Yeah. I'm here to chew gum and kill aliens, and I'm all out of gum.
Another thing is you can get subliminal messages from, this is what I've heard, in like when you go into the stores and they're playing some kind of music, you get subliminal messages to get you to buy more, for example, that kind of thing. Have you heard any of that? Or
Yeah. Let me discuss that next. So that's just the first level of it. So we'll go back to television programming. The next level is they've investigated the term. I think it was Preston Nichols of the Montauk books coined psychotronics. And it's about a much more sophisticated level of mind control where they can then encode messages in. I was being a sensitive, I was really aware of this watching Trump debate Hillary Clinton. And so the underlying that they had embedded a message that Trump is bad and Clinton's good, within that. But there's really sophisticated ways they have of doing that. There's also, as you said, the subliminals, like they very early on, in television, they were doing this and people caught it. And I think they're not supposed to be allowed to do it anymore, but I'm sure they do. But so I said 30 frames per second. Well, one of those frames will say, buy Coca-Cola, right?
Yes.
And your conscious mind won't perceive that, but your subconscious will.
Yes. Yeah, people don't realize that. That's really so true. Psychotronics, that's the new terminology for mind control, right?
Yeah, it's talking about using very sophisticated electronic embedding and even scalar type energies. Yeah, they can use frequencies. We were talking about Rife finding positive ones. They can do the same thing with negative ones. I had Sherry Edwards on my show. I don't know if you know who she is.
No, not really.
She's just a jewel. I think she's pretty much retired now, but she was born a mutant, like a real mutant, like X-Men type stuff. But in this case, it was just her ears. Her inner ears more resemble a dolphin colochia that has a much broader frequency range than human ears. She's probably an extraterrestrial that genetics would be my guess. But so at any rate, she's able to hear frequencies in people. You can just talk to her and, I've had her on and she'll say, well, so-and-so, you may have some issues with your kidney. I can hear that frequency, and she can do it on everything from physical health to if you're telling the truth or not. So I had her I got her to, she was so sweet. It was just 24 hours notice. She was willing to come on my show. And she said, is there anything you want me to work on before that? I mean, talk about generosity. I was thrilled even to just have her on. I said, well, yeah, actually, if you want to listen to a Trump speech and give us a reading on his motivations and if he's being truthful and what kind of a person she is. So she listened to one and said that, and then listened to the same speech. One was on CNN and one was on another, the same speech, but from a different network. And she said on the CNN one, they had removed certain frequencies from his voice to make him sound less sincere.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I said it. It's very sophisticated what they can do with this stuff.
Wow. Well, there was a recent speech that they said was him on Fox. And there are people that said that they didn't think it was him. But they can also, from what I understand, they can take and listen to a bunch of different speeches or whatever on audio and take the words and then have someone else totally say it and it'll sound like him. But they've probably, like you said, removed any of the sincerity or I didn't even realize they could do that. That's pretty amazing.
I'd never heard of that either before she brought it on, but her natural hearing is so profound that she told me, I think she said, I have a lot of D sharp in my voice, which is truth. It means I'm being sincere and telling you as best as I understand things.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And there's a frequency for truth then. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, she said it was D sharp.
C sharp. I'll be darned. Wow, that's amazing. I might have to look this lady up.
She has a whole thing. I think she has a free download. I don't know. Just look for it's SHARR, and I forget if it's EY or just Y. It's her first name, so it's Sherry, and then her last name is Edwards.
I'll look her up. That sounds fascinating.
She's an amazing woman. I have so much respect. She, at one point early on, her son got terribly injured. I think he cut his femur artery in his leg. So he was bleeding out really fast.
Oh my God.
And what she did, she was able to produce a frequency with her voice, just going, oh, or whatever, that slowed the bleeding down enough so that he survived to, when the EMTs got there.
Oh my God, that's amazing. Well, dolphins are extremely intelligent beings and very high vibration also. And to have even a small part of one is pretty amazing what it could do. And that's fascinating.
Yeah.
Yes. Wow. Well, we've been going for about an hour now. I don't know if you'd like to continue, or is, we could,
Yeah, almost an hour and a half. We can go a little bit longer. I answer a few more questions. I do want to get going before a whole lot longer.
Well, I thought it was it a whole hour and a half? Okay. If that's the case, why don't we just call it, we can always do this.
No,
again.
we can go a little longer. It's fine.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to stay on the, positive note, and that frequency, how important frequency is. That's one of the things that Tesla always, talked about, vibration. What's the three of them? I can't even think of it. Vibration, frequency, and what's the other one? It's escaping me. Do you know?
Well, one of the things when people talk about frequency, it's all about frequency. It's all about frequency. And I say, no, that's only part of it, because each frequency has a waveform. So the only pure waveform that you can make is with a synthesizer. So it's just that individual frequency. Every frequency that's produced acoustically, whether it's electric guitar, your voice, or any sound, actually has all the notes in it, and it creates a waveform. That's what gives us the timbre. That's why a flute sounds different from a guitar, sounds different from a mandolin, etc., because the actual harmonic content is slightly different. So when any acoustic sound is made, let's just take your voice cords. There's the fundamental vibration, which is the lowest frequency you're aware of. There's the secondary, which is the octave, and then the tertiary is the fifth, and then the fourth, and then the third, and they are less and less amplitudes. And depending on the resonance of what it is, that determines changes the amplitude slightly as we get up into these higher harmonics, and that creates the timbre of it. That's why people's voices sound different, because they have different resonances, and different harmonics are slightly higher or lower amplitude, and that's what creates the waveform. So if you look at it on an oscilloscope, you would see a waveform, which is not a pure sinusoidal waveform. There's all these other frequencies within that at lower amplitudes. And guess what? It never stops. Literally, you make one note, you've made every single note in the universe. It's just increasingly smaller amplitudes.
Well, what is it that, you hear the stories about the opera singers that can break a crystal glass? What is that all about?
So to my knowledge, they have to be amplified to do that. But if they hit the right note, so as I said, resonant frequency, so that crystal glass has a, you hit it with your finger and it goes ding.
Yeah.
That's its resonant frequency, right? So if some opera singer can sing that super loud, that will it was just like Royal Raymond Rife was doing with the diseased cells he was breaking up with his audio generators. The thing I worry about with modern Rife generators is that I think they're just putting out a lot of digital hash. There are probably a lot of square waves that are really nasty. So you could say you have a frequency that kills cancer, but you're producing a waveform that's full of crap. Even though the fundamental is good, the harmonics are bad.
That's fascinating that you say that, and I think that's really important too, because I've read too that every organ in our body has a frequency, and so there are different types of cancers as well. So depending on what you're dealing with, it certainly would be very important. The frequency and harmonics and vibration.
And they'll actually have waveforms. That's why I think Royal Rife was using 2 or 3 different frequencies combined, because there are, like if you say your heart has a frequency, yeah, it has a fundamental frequency, but it also has all these others as well. Mm-hmm. It's just the various resonances, in the different areas. But there will be a fundamental frequency that is most strongly resonant.
Now, that makes me wonder, you've heard about the med beds that are supposed to be coming out, and I wonder what they, I'm sure they know how to combine all of those different frequencies or whatever, or somehow be able to read your DNA's original blueprint and somehow get the body to recreate it. What do you think?
Well, I've heard a lot about it, have not seen one yet, but a lot of people are talking about it. I suspect they are real. And I've heard that there's like 3 different major types of them, depending on what ails you, so to speak. And some use actually light and sound. And they say they can regrow limbs and age you backwards. I would love to be aged backwards myself.
Yeah, that's what I'd like to experience, that's for sure.
But I've also heard that they can't age you too far backwards because people have a tendency to start picking up some of the habits again that got them into trouble. You don't want to be a teenager again, but if you get to like 35 or 40 when you're kind of a sensible adult, that seems to be the best option for them. I would love to be 35 again.
Oh yeah, so would I. I think the furthest back I'd go is maybe 28.
I know, I was thinking that too, maybe 28, 29, but that's right at Saturn return for many of us. So
anyway, that would be I'm really looking forward to that. I remember when Trump was in Arizona, and he had record-breaking crowds, especially I was in the area when he was down near Prescott, and it was so crowded I decided not to go any further. But anyway, he said that there would be machines here, and I've heard this now again, in Arizona, Florida, and Texas. And
I've watched a number of his speeches, and he has repeatedly said comments like, I don't remember verbatim, but like, you have no idea the technology that's coming is off the charts, and I'm like, yes.
Cure 6,000 different ailments, for one thing. Western medicine will be put out of business, basically. And right.
Well, it's great. Western medicine is great for trauma. That's really its forte.
Absolutely. If you're in a car accident, there's no one else you'd want to put together. But as far as many other things, it falls short.
Well, they deliberately repressed all kinds of amazing cures because they, as I said, at the top level, I mean, the doctor, I'm sure all the doctors I've met are just the sweetest, most giving people. But at the top, it's it's been infiltrated by the dark cabal, and they do not want to heal people. You get people really feeling good, and they're not going to put up with this crap.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, we basically had the Rockefeller take over the education of the medical doctors, and that directed them into pharmaceuticals as being the only, the main way of, curing or treating symptoms, never anything that really cured. And that therein lies the problem. I
think Rife had a 90+% cure rate for cancers and all kinds of stuff. And I don't remember the story. I think he was put in jail. I don't remember if he died.
Died in prison, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when the same thing repeat over and over again.
Yeah. And people that have brought great gifts in to help humanity have met with terrible last days of their life. It's really sad what they did to Tesla. I mean, he pretty much died a pauper too. Even some of the other founding fathers.
He invented the electrical grid, and Westinghouse got him to tear up the deal he made that he would be paid $1 for every kilowatt hour. And he was never a businessman. If he was smart, he would have renegotiated and said, well, how about a penny then? And he still would have been a millionaire. But he was a pure altruist. There's a better word I can't think of. But he was a gift to humanity. And we're still actually operating from that late 1800s technology today.
He wasn't in it for the money. You know?
Nope, he was unique. Was he from Venus? I don't know.
Well, I got to ask you this: do you, with your experiences that you've had with galactics, are they actually helping humanity now? Or are they still adhering to this prime directive BS, which I don't think is fair, because humanity has been manipulated by other beings to the extent that I think free will and creating our own reality has been compromised somewhat, quite a bit actually. And so, in all fairness, if they are benevolent, I think they have a responsibility to help us. That's just my feeling.
Okay, that's a great question. That goes to the whole cosmology that we're in right now. So as just like on planet Earth, you have everything from saints to Satanists, brilliant inventors to charlatans. You have this whole range of people's motivations. And some are very, very positive and some not so much. And some are downright evil, just straight up evil. It's the same is true with the extraterrestrials. We've got a whole bunch of different extraterrestrial races here. I'm convinced, I've actually communicated with a positive reptilian as well. And between what this being and what Lyra tells me, has really helped me kind of unpack this. And so when I listen to other people like James Gilliland, it really resonates. I go, yeah, I believe he's correct. And so what he says is, for some thousands of years, we've been under a control grid of the reptilians and the Anunnaki. They made an agreement where they kind of divided up certain regions of Earth to enslave us with their agendas. So that now at this point is getting cleaned up. There's a galactic federation, which is coming from the inner, more central to the galaxy than we're about a third of the way out. From the center of the galaxy, of the Milky Way, there's much more as you go inward. The stars are much more dense, and so what this group has been doing is going around and cleaning up the enslavement. So currently, what's happening is underground bases are getting blowed up all over the place. They're taking out the bad guys and actually blowing up their ships as they leave Earth. They're not even letting them escape because they've been given an ultimatum. They said, you guys got to go. It is not just that you're enslaving the humans the way you are. This is not universal law. So they are acting very directly with this. I believe Trump had actual extraterrestrial advisors.
I do too.
Some believe Pleiadian. Yeah. A lot of angelic energy around him as well. But then there's all these groups that are in between. So there's groups that are just wanting to do commerce. There's the Greys that are very interested in our DNA and are not positive at all, but they're not evil either. They're not about enslaving us. They've just got their own particular agenda. And there's everything in between. We're getting the really dark ones are getting cleaned out. They're also doing things like ameliorating events like Fukushima, which it was just terrible, and they had to let us see some of the terribleness of it, but they've made it less toxic. And done things like that, and I believe made earthquakes less severe at times too. But they're not doing anything overtly. The other thing they're doing is they're showing up. When I tell people I've had these contacts, I can't tell you how many times that somebody says, "Yeah, me too." And there is a lot, not just flying over, the Temple of Solomon, or they're healing a lot of energies, subtle, dark energies, places where a lot of horrible things have happened. They're clearing, and they're communicating with lots of people like James Gilliland and many, many others, and that's increasing. And I had one of my clairvoyant friends the other day says, "Yeah, I have these Pleiadian beings around me. Can you tell me what that's all about?" And so I looked at it and said, "Yeah, they're super nice." So a lot of very positive things are happening. A lot of them are just watching too. This is the big show. I tell everybody, be grateful, man. If you're incarnate right now, you got tickets to the big show, my friend. Make the best of it, because right now you can do more inner work than you could in like whole lifetimes. Time is so compressed right now, and it's so you're being confronted with so much the positive and negative, that you can really make some choices to propel yourself forward in your soul's evolution. And that is the very, very best thing you can do. It's the only thing you're going to take with you when you leave here, when you leave this incarnation. So get while the getting's good, my friends.
So important. That's wonderful advice, and so true. And I just feel like the ones that are just sitting and watching is they're sitting and watching because they're seeing people evolve. They're seeing people wake up, and as they remove more and more of this negative energy, which is emanates from these beings that are being forced to leave, it opens people up more to be able to bring out more of the positive that's really deep within them. Because I do believe that humans are innately good, which is the opposite of what we've been told. And because anything other than that either comes from some kind of programming, or they're not really human at the very base level. So I look forward to as it evolves more and more, because I think we are some of the most creative beings around, and we have so much within us that has been so suppressed. It just seems like there's really a super bright future that can come forth.
Positive aliens are helping us, but they're doing it in a very balanced manner, because it's like we were saying before, if you just give somebody something, it doesn't mean anything. We have to go through it. We have to experience, we have to earn it, and we have to develop. So all they're supporting us, but they're not going to come in directly and install Trump back in as president, for instance.
Well,
at least I don't think so.
I think that's going to happen regardless. I don't think he ever left. But
there's a lot about that. That's a whole nother show.
Yeah, it is. It really is. But I think the best is yet to come. That's the future that I want to look forward to, and
participate in creating.
Yes. So I guess that's about. We can leave it on a positive.
Yeah, that's a good note to end on.
Yeah. And thank you so much for your time.
Oh, it was a real pleasure.
Maybe we'll do it again sometime. Thank you.
You betcha.
All right. You have a great rest of the evening. And thank you, listening audience. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
This Free Range Productions program is presented for information purposes only. The opinions expressed may not necessarily reflect the opinions of the hosts, Free Range Productions, its principal supporters, or staff. Viewers are directed to use their own research and discernment with respect to any information presented here.